First, we're going to go live.
Kelly, you back with us? Okay, looks like it's that time. We'll go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Owasso City Council. Item number 2 is invocation from our city manager, Warren Lear.
Thank you, Mayor. If you would pray with me. Father, we thank you for your blessings on our community. We thank you for the protection that you bring us and the blessings you bring us daily. We ask that you would bring us wisdom in the decisions that we make this evening and going forward. We ask that you would comfort those that are hurting right now, and there are many ways. Pray that you give our healthcare workers endurance in the difficult places around the world, and that you'd comfort those that have suffered loss. Father, we ask a blessing and comfort for the Quigley family here in Owasso and Bartlesville. And Father, we just pray for your protection going forward. Ask that you'd help us to be cautious, but not fearful. We thank you and praise you in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Warren.
Hey, Chris, I don't know if it was just me, but I could just barely hear Warren. I could just barely hear you on that microphone.
Yeah, I was the same.
Me too.
I'll speak up.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, roll call.
Mayor Chris Kelly,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bill Bush,
Here.
Councilor Doug Bonebrake,
Here.
Councilor Lyndall Dunn,
Here.
Councilor Kelly Lewis,
Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Mr. Bonebrake,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Bush.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis, are you back with us? Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Item number 6 is consideration and appropriate action relating to ordinance 1164 and ordinance 1165, closing to the public use certain street and utility easements for the Come and Go store number 1858 located at 502 East 2nd Avenue. Carl Fritchen has this item.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This item involves 2 ordinances, Ordinance 1164 and 1165. Specifically, their easement closures associated with the new Come and Go property down here on 76th Street, store number 1858. Some of the key points associated with this property is it's, again, associated with the recently approved plat for this Come and Go store. There are 3 total easements involved in this request. There's 1 street easement and 2 utility easements. The new plat that was approved a couple months back provides the necessary easements in the right-of-way. So it basically makes these easements on this property that were done by separate instrument unnecessary. It also just adds the additional benefit of keeping the title clean on the property for the new owner. This is an aerial photograph showing the location. We again have seen this one before. This came in with the plat that was approved. So this is the same property. And this is the final plat that did get approved on the property. You can see the little notch out up there in the upper left corner. That is the area that is being dedicated by the plat for right-of-way. Just so happens in that area was this street easement that was recorded way back, we think probably in the 70s, for that piece of property along that edge. And there was a couple of utility easements that were also recorded by separate instrument. One of them was here, and the other one was located across the property, basically in the middle of the property in that location there. This is specifically looking at the road easement, the exhibit that was provided by the applicant in their survey. And these are the two utility easements that were associated with the original plat that was on this property that was done back in the early 70s. Technical advisory did hear this item at its April 15th meeting. There were no concerns expressed at that meeting regarding the closure of these easements. With that, staff would recommend approval of ordinances 1164 and 1165, closing of a street easement and 2 utility easements. And I'll be happy to take any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Questions or comments from the council?
Yeah, Carl, on the, I noticed on the Exhibit B, it still says owner ASAP Energy. Is that who Come and Go bought it from? Is that an old exhibit?
That's it. It's actually who Come and Go had bought that property from. So,
Okay. Because I know they were at one time the ones that were going to redo the shell. So, okay, thank you.
they are the new owners.
All right, thanks.
Carl, just in the memo, just for clarification, you mentioned that these easements are necessary and or redundant. What would be redundant about them? Just because they overlay other right of way, or?
Well, specifically, it'd be the street easement that's kind of more of a redundant easement. The utility easements that were recorded probably were done because part of this property, if you recall, was not platted back in the day. So they probably need to get public utilities into the property. It's my assumption they just recorded separate instruments.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'll move we approve.
Second?
Second. Mr. Bonebrake,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
yes,
Mr. Dunn,
yes,
Mr. Kelly,
Yes. Move on to item number 7, consideration and appropriate action relating to ordinance 1166 for the annexation of approximately 8.722 acres located at 12525 East 116th Street North. Carl has this item as well.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. This is involving ordinance 1166. It's for an annexation case, 20-01. Key points regarding this property: it's an 8.722 acre site. It's located at 12525 East 116th Street North. Now, this annexation will also include a strip of right-of-way to the fire station that will actually connect to this subject property, and that ensures that it will maintain connection to the existing city limits. So the ordinance does include that strip of right-of-way that goes all the way to the fire station. The applicant plans to open up a skilled nursing facility on this property, specifically on the back side of the property, while maintaining the current home that's more on the front side of the property for an administrative office. They'll eventually, I've been told, sell off the front part for future commercial uses. The property is currently zoned AGR, or agricultural residential, and that's in Tulsa County. The land use plan does call out for commercial land uses as the preferred highest intensity on this tract. The water provider in this location is Washington County Rural Water District number 3, and sanitary sewer service would be provided by the city of Owasso. It's an aerial photograph showing the location of this property. North 126th East Avenue butts the property here to the east, so it runs in a north-south configuration. 116th Street North butts the property on the south, and it runs in an east-west configuration. This is an exhibit that's been provided by the applicant. Basically, it's the Auth survey that was provided of the subject property itself. This depicts the zoning in the area. It's mostly surrounded by AGR, agricultural residential type uses. There are some commercial uses further to the east near the hard corner intersection, 116th Street. and north of 129th. There's also an existing senior living facility. It's located at the northwest corner of 116th Street and 129th. It's called Prairie Village. It's located right in here. So it's not too far away from that particular piece of property. Land use master plan again calls this out for commercial uses as the preferred highest intensity. Planning Commission did hear this item, and they voted 5-0 to recommend approval of annexation OA 20-01 at the regular meeting on May 11th, 2020. That staff would recommend approval of annexation request OA 20-01 and the associated ordinance with that 1166. I'd also go ahead and mention that the applicant does, as I'd mentioned, plan to bring forth a development proposal for a skilled nursing facility. This will be in the form of a PUD, which we expect will be coming forth next month. But as a result of that, he was asked to notify the adjoining neighbors of the proposed PUD and what their intent on the property was. And so he did mail out a concept plan. As a result of that, we did get a few phone calls just inquiring about what was going to take place on the property. And we do have two neighbors that kind of are across the street from this property to the east that are interested in annexation. But we will hold separate meetings with those individuals and guide them through that process. So with that, I'll be able to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Questions or comments from the council?
Carl, Brian, I believe, talked to us about this last week, and he had indicated that the applicant also sent out information to the adjoining neighbors for the meetings at the Planning Commission. Was this other thing in addition to that you had mentioned, where he was making contact with others?
Well, as part of the PUD that the applicant has submitted, it just hasn't gone before the Planning Commission or Council yet. It is recommended that they hold a neighborhood meeting.
Right.
However, due to the issue with the COVID-19 and social distancing and whatnot, we allowed them to do a mail out showing the concept plan in that mail out, and that's what they did, and that's what generated a few of the comments from some of the citizens.
Okay. But that last issue you said came after what Brian had mentioned. Is that right?
I believe that is correct, yes.
Okay. The concept here, possibly, I know we're just dealing with annexation at this point, but if it's going to be a residential family unit that they're possibly going to be putting in, is it, you had said that the master plan called for that area to be commercial land uses. Does that fit with residential multifamily?
Yeah, actually, the commercial use that was called out in the land use master plan, again, is the preferred highest intensity. You can always go lower than that, and then we can kind of evaluate that project based on that area. So really the way this is going to set up with the commercial along the frontage and then the skilled nursing facility in behind that, it sets up very well as a transitional use as you move from south to north into that existing rural residential neighborhood that's in behind it. So in that regard, yes, it's in keeping with the philosophy of the land use master plan.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'll move we approve.
Second.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Bumbrake?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Item number 8 is consideration and appropriate action relating to a final plat for Brighton Park Phase 1, located approximately 1/2 mile north of 106th Street North and west of Mingo Road. Carl?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, councilors. This item is for the final plat for Brighton Park Phase 1. The property consists of 3.43 acres, 8 lots on 2 blocks. Property is zoned OPUD 14-01. That was done under Ordinance 1032. a few years back. And the water provider on the property is City of Owasso. Sanitary sewer would also be the City of Owasso. And the proposed use on this property is for single-family residential. It's an aerial photograph showing the location of this property. Across the street to the east is Metro Heights, and it does abut Mingo Road along the eastern side of this property. This, I would also mention, this was, again, associated with PUD 14-01 that was approved about almost 5 years ago. So by virtue of this plat, it will validate that PUD. They were approaching the expiration date of that particular PUD, but this submittal of the plat will validate it once it's recorded. Again, this will be the initial phase of that development. This does lie on the eastern side of that floodplain boundary. There is a creek that runs in behind the property to the west. You can see it kind of with the darker shaded tree line back in here. This is the final plat for Brighton Park Phase 1. Again, it's a pretty small subdivision consisting of 8 lots. Little cul-de-sac that goes down to the south in this location comes off 109th. And that street does align across the street with the 109th that goes into Metro Heights. So that's one of the things we asked them to do, is maintain that alignment. It does provide all the utility easements necessary to service the lots. Again, they have not gone through all of the engineering yet, but they have submitted their first round of drawings to engineering. So they are moving forward with this project. Planning Commission did hear this at their last regular meeting. They voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the final plat for Brighton Park Phase 1. And with that, staff would recommend the approval of final plat. Pardon the typo there, that is for Brighton Park Phase 1, not Parker Village, which you will see in a moment.
Thank you, Carl. Questions or comments?
Carl, in your memo, in the memo, it says that stormwater detention will be required, but will be evaluated at the time civil plans are submitted and reviewed. I guess my question is, if we don't foresee the stormwater detention to be within this small development here, right? But somewhere on the development, the full development?
Yeah, they'll have to, that determination will be made once they run kind of the model of how much stormwater the project's going to produce. Since it is right abutting the floodplain, there is the potential that they may not have to provide it. I cannot speak for engineering on that topic really, but they will have to address stormwater in some fashion, and whether it's discharged directly into the adjoining floodway, given its proximity, or they have to detain it somewhere adjoining this property, could be on the part that they will probably denote as Phase 2. That may be likely as well.
I just didn't see it on the plat, so I figured it probably will show up somewhere else in the development, maybe. Like you said, the engineering still has to be done. But okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.
I move we approve.
Second.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Bonebrake,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes. On to item number 9, consideration and appropriate action relating to a final plat for Parker Village, located northeast of the East 106th Street North Garnett Road intersection. Last one, Carl.
We've lost you, Mayor. Can you try that again?
Yep. Did you did you hear any of the reading of that item?
I heard it.
And Warren, we're still not able to hear you guys at the table really well, just a heads up. I don't know if it's going out in the system that way.
Okay, I'll just reread the item. Item 9 is consideration of appropriate action relating to a final plat for Parker Village, located northeast of the East 106th Street North and Garnett Road
Can any of
intersection.
the rest of you hear the mayor?
We can hear
The
him.
rest of you hear me?
We can hear Chris. We can barely hear you. Can you hear us, Warren?
I think they may be freezing up on their end.
Counselor Lewis is just glad it's not her this time.
What'd you say?
I said, you're just happy it's not you that's freezing up, right?
I can see them moving.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay. Should I reread that item again?
Yes, please.
Okay, item 9 is consideration and appropriate action relating to a final plat for Parker Village located northeast of East 106th Street North and Garnett Road intersection. Carl?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, councilors. This is a final plat request for Parker Village. This property is 57.54 acres in size, consists of 120 lots on 7 blocks. It's associated with OPUD 17-01A, and that was approved under Ordinance 1154. Water provider on the property is actually split. It's the western half of the property is City of Owasso's water, and the eastern half of the property is Washington County Rule Number 3. Sanitary sewer provider on the property is the City of Owasso. The streets in the development will be public. And the use on the property is 3 different uses: commercial, multifamily, and single-family residential. There will be 2 main access points that will service this property. One will be off Garnett. The other one will be off 106th Street North. There are also 3 reserve areas in this development. They will be utilized for detention, recreation, protected open space, and landscaping. This is an aerial photograph showing the location of the property. It says the submitted final plat for Parker Village. Again, it will be broken up into 3 different use areas. The area that first popped up here is the multifamily area. There's a commercial area that lies to the southwest of that. And then on the eastern side will be the single-family residential area. As I'd mentioned, there's 2 water districts. The boundary is where the blue line is shown here. City of Owasso will be on the western side of that line, and then Washington County Rural Number 3's water district will be on the eastern side of that line. The reserve area is a little bit hard to read, but there's a reserve area A that came up in the light shaded green area. That will be for detention purposes as well as protected open space. There is a jurisdictional wetland in this location, and the developer will not be doing anything with that area, essentially, other than just leaving it alone. Development area B, that's just going to be a landscaped open space area. That's kind of in the center of the single family area. And there's another development area C a little bit further to the south and west, and that'll again be just open space, landscaped area. 2 access points is one I mentioned off 106th Street North. Will come into the development from the south. There will be one off Garnett coming in from the west. This will form a collector road that will connect those 2 entrances up. There will be another entrance that will service a multifamily development. That's depicted with the arrow, the last area that you see along Garnett. That will actually be a right-in, right-out by virtue of the new street project that's coming in with the Garnett. There will be a median in that location, so it will not be full access. The full access will occur where the collector road comes into the development off of Garnett. Planning Commission did hear this item, and they voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the final plat for Parker Village. With that, staff would recommend approval of the final plat for Parker Village, and I'll be happy to address any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Questions or comments from the council?
Carl, I know you probably said it, but I didn't hear very well. Which block is it that will have the multifamily in it?
Yeah, it's this area up right here, if you can see. I don't know if you can see the green dot, but the multifamily area is depicted right here.
I'm sorry, I can't see. Is that like in block, is that block 7 or I can't?
I believe that is. It says multifamily area in a little like orange looking box.
Okay. So I guess my question then becomes, because block 7 isn't really depicted except for the boundaries. Would that be normal for a final plat?
Yeah, because the multifamily area will come in with eventually a site plan, and that will depict where all the units will sit on that property. So it is defined as a lot, and that is typically the way you'll see a multifamily property.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Carl, can you say again what reserves B and C are for?
Yeah, B and C are just going to be internal to the single-family development. Those will just be landscaped areas that will basically be inside the neighborhood around some of the homes that are in there.
Okay, thanks.
I'll move we
I
approve.
move we approve.
Okay, I'll second.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Bonebrake,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes. Thanks, Carl. Item number 10 is consideration and appropriate action relating to bids received for the Owasso Police Department Firearms Range Observation Tower Project. Chief Chambliss has this item. Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight we are discussing the April 23rd bid opening that occurred for the Firearms Range Observation Tower. Unfortunately, the bids that we received far exceeded the budget that we had set for this project. As a result of that, we are undergoing a redesign of the entire building to see if we can get the cost and the range in which we've budgeted for. Therefore, staff recommends rejecting all bids for the construction of the Owasso Police Department Firearms Range Observation Control Tower Project. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Chief. Questions or comments from the council?
Chief, I forgot, what did you have budgeted for this?
I'm a little bit hesitant to talk about the budget since we're going to put it back out to bid. I wouldn't want future bidders to know what range we're looking at as far as the bid cost, if you're comfortable with that, sir.
Okay, we'll live with that. I understand.
I can just say it wasn't anywhere near what these bids came in at.
Do you think that there's going to be a fairly significant redesign to try to accommodate the budget, or what do you predict?
Yes, we do. Rather than a masonry design on the outside of the building, we're probably going to be looking at a exterior steel design with some cosmetic enhancements to keep the building looking good, but that still has a lot of longevity in it, and it's a very cost-effective way of building. Also, the second floor, concrete floor, is just going to be changed to a traditional structural floor. And then a couple of the other costly items, one was a window. The front window that is facing the direction of the sun was apparently a very costly window. We were not aware it was going to cost out in the tens of thousands of dollar range. And then lastly, there was a penalty clause put in the bid specs for too much delay in the project, and we believe that some of the bidders may have enhanced their cost significantly because they're having a hard time getting materials. So that caused them concern in the delay of that. So with removing the penalty clause, changing the window, removing some concrete, and changing the masonry on the outside, I think we're going to be able to get it within the range in which we budgeted and still have a very nice functional building.
Understood. I called up the pictures that Warren sent us some time back, and I really like that design, so I hope you're able to at least achieve close to that. Obviously, maybe a different veneer is not going to make a huge difference there, but anyway, it looks good. I'm looking forward to that project coming to fruition.
Yes.
Chief, do you have concerns that by removing the penalty clause, we're going to have trouble getting the timeline for completion? And would we might get into trouble with inflating material costs?
I don't think so. I think the risk of kind of this, probably this long-term environment of challenges getting materials is going to far outweigh the issues we might run into related to the delays. I'm comfortable with delays. It's been a long-term project anyhow, so if it takes 6 months longer than was originally planned, what I'm concerned about is keeping it within budget and having an end product that is what we need for the facility.
Thank you.
And Chief, I'm sure, I mean, obviously you wouldn't allow this anyway, so it's probably a moot question, but as far as compromising any of the safety, as far as, you know, penetration of rounds or anything, stray rounds or anything, is that still going to be, that's not going to be compromised, right?
The design of the building with the masonry was not designed for the purpose of protecting the range staff in the tower. It's just the side benefit of using masonry. The expectations and the control mechanisms that we have on the range would make it a rare event that they would ever be at risk inside of that tower because they're behind the shooters. The real risk is really you have range staff standing on the range behind those shooters, even with the tower. So there's always, under a very rare and remote circumstance, a possibility that a round may go the wrong direction. But you know, the other shooters on the range, the staff on the range, they're just as much at risk right now and will continue to be so in the future than people in the tower. So I want to repeat, the tower wasn't designed with the idea that we were going to try to protect people inside of it. That was just a side benefit of the design.
So would it have been, or would it be a lot cheaper just to build a steel structure with steel siding and that type of thing, just to get the cost way down if we don't need to go with concrete if there's not a safety factor involved?
That's what we're looking at doing is using steel siding from top to bottom, as well as the roof of the building, and that should get the interior structure, the beams and everything else will be steel to hold that. But that is the plan, and we expect for the cost to come down considerably using those types of materials.
Thank you. Well, I'll move we approve not to build the structure right now, or not to approve any of the bids.
I'll second.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Bonebreak?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis? I'm sorry, Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Thanks, Chief. Item 11 is consideration and appropriate action relating to a contract with the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge number 149 for fiscal year 2020-2021. Welcome, Ms. Dempster.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. The first item before you, I have before you this evening is the approval of the FOP contract. As I mentioned last week, I'm very pleased that the FOP approached us early in the COVID-19 isolation and temporary closure of businesses with the proposal to continue the current contract. So the city was agreeable to that. The increase in costs, in all costs associated with continuing the contract with date changes only, is $243,182. And staff recommends approval of the fiscal year 2020-2021 contract between the City of Owasso and the Fraternal Order of Police, Lodge number 149, and authorization for the mayor to execute the contract. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Michelle. Questions or comments from the council?
I'll just reiterate what Michelle said. Grateful to Travis and all the FOP group for Travis Sellers and all the FOP group for being willing to come to us and get this solidified so we didn't have to worry about it. It's a wonderful thing.
I will second that.
And I'll move we approve.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Bonebreak?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Item number 12 is consideration and appropriate action relating to a contract with the International Association of Firefighters Local 2789 for fiscal year 2021. Ms. Dempster?
Yes, part of the fiscal year 2019-2020 contract with the International Association of Firefighters, or IAFF, was included language agreeing to ratify the contract for a second year. The second year of the contract, effective for fiscal year 2020-2021, includes a 1.5% across the board increase effective July 1st and a 1.25% across the board effective January 1st. All other contract language remains unchanged. The increase in all costs associated with continuing the contract is $369,444. Staff recommends ratification of the 2020-2021 contract between the City of Owasso and the International Association of Firefighters Local Number 2789 and authorization for the mayor to execute the contract. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Michelle. Questions or comments from the council?
No, just glad to get another one under the belt there. Good job by all involved.
Right.
I'll move we approve.
Second.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Bonebreak?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Thank you, Michelle. Item number 13 is report from our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of items. Earlier this month, there was communication amongst council with city staff about anticipating resuming in-person meetings for June. We're still anticipating that. We'll be able to accommodate the tables and the arrangement of the room to. If there's any concerns about that, I'm sure I'll be in touch with the mayor and council this upcoming week. But please let us know if there's any concerns. And then finally, just a calendar note, Monday, May 25th, city offices, non-emergency offices, City Hall will be closed in observation of Memorial Day. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Warren. Item 14 is report from the city attorney.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Item 15 is report from the city council. It feels a little bit odd that we didn't have an agenda item on COVID tonight, and I suppose that's a good thing. That doesn't mean it's over, but we certainly are looking good, and I hope it continues in that direction. Looks like unless we get a trend upward, the state's going to open back up completely on the 1st. So that little spike we were worried about happening a couple weeks after we opened back up doesn't appear to have happened, at least at this stage. I know it could at any point, but just thankful that that things are going as well as they are. All right, we'll move on to item number 16, official notices to the council. We are in receipt of these documents. Item 17 is new business. There is none. I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So move.
Second.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Bonebreak?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. We'll now call to order this meeting of the Owasso Public Works Authority. Item number 2 is roll call.
Chair Chris Kelly?
Here.
Vice Chair Bill Bush?
Here.
Trustee Doug Bonebreak?
Here.
Trustee Lyndall Dunn?
Here.
Trustee Kelly Lewis?
Here.
Item number 3 is consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Sounded like R2D2.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Bonebreak?
Yes.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes. Item number 5 is a report from the OPWA manager.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Item 6 is a report from the OPWA attorney.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Item 7 is official notices to the authority. We are in receipt of these documents. Item 8 is new business. There is none. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bumbrake,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes. Apparently Counselor Bush's dog's got a vote.
Well, they heard that we were talking to you. All I gotta do is say your name, and they'll, Dr. Kelly. So,
We'll now call to order this meeting of the Owasso Public Golf Authority. Item number 2 is roll call.
Chair Chris Kelly,
Here.
Vice Chair Bill Bush,
here.
Trustee Doug Bumbrake,
Here.
Trustee Lyndall Dunn,
Here.
Trustee Kelly Lewis,
Here.
Item 3 is consideration and appropriate action relating to a request for approval of the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent.
I'll let Kelly have that one and second it.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Bumbrake,
Yes.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes. Item 5 is report from the OPGA manager.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Item 6 is report from the OPGA attorney.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Item 7 is official notices to the authority. We are in receipt of these documents. Item 8 is new business. There is none. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bush,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Bumbrake,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly.
Yes, we are adjourned. Have a great